What's going on, guys? Stevie from the Minimasters here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to upgrade your vacuum system. So whether you're new to cars or you're an absolute veteran, one of those components that needs maintenance, especially in older vehicles, is the vacuum system. The vacuum system runs a lot of key stuff that you may not be aware of, but you may happen to fix when they go. Perfect example. On this truck, people will lose the air conditioning or heat and only get defrost. Well, that's because this vacuum actuated door here will fail. They can also lose their cruise control. My model doesn't come with it, but it would pull from one of the vacuum lines on this tree. You can have brake issues. That's one big brake line there. I mean, there's a whole host of issues that can happen if you have a failed vacuum. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to upgrade a lot of these different components in the system. So I have the famous coffee can here that is going to replace the existing one. This is not a coffee can, this is actually a vacuum canister, and it holds additional vacuum. So when you're pulling a lot of vacuum from your engine, you need more, it's stored here. They can develop leaks and you can have little issues over time. So good time to replace that. I also have this little vacuum actuated door here. That's a climate control thing. That's also right here. And then in general, I'm just going to be upgrading all of the rubber tubing to high performance silicone. Now, before you go and you just eBay or Amazon some high performance silicone, you have to order it from a reputable brand, or it can develop so much vacuum it collapses and then you're really stuck. So definitely buy from a reputable brand. I bought it from this company called Silicone Intakes. I have purchased from another company called High Performance Vacuum Line before. Now they only do kits for specialty vehicles, but this is where I've gotten this from. Apparently it's a reputable company. They make really good vacuum line. I'll put a link in the description so you can find that there. I also have, as part of my little kit here, I have some of this wire mold, and that's for all the sections that have to go up against areas that might be a little too hot, although I think the stuff is fairly well temperature rated. I have little cable ties / zip ties to hold it in place and make it look nice. And then all I'm going to do is use just my trusty Milwaukee razor knife here, my utility knife, to make all the cuts. So basically we're going to start with each little section and just replace some of it. So I have this section here, which is coming off of the charcoal canisters. It's an emissions type thing. So if you've removed all your emissions components, you don't have to worry about that. But I'm gonna start here because, as you can see, this one is super brittle and it's going to a section I've replaced, but as you can see, it's just a little too small because I barely have it on that nub. And it's gonna go here to your idle position sensor, if I remember correctly. And then I have this short section of blue here. So I'm just gonna replace that little section there and bring you back. Just for reference, this stuff just pulls apart, and if it's really tough to get off and you're having a hard time, you can always cut it. But there, I just pulled one out, and I pulled, let's see if we can pull this other connector. It's really in there, but it's just that simple. There's no real secret to this, and then you're just gonna keep connecting, and I'll bring you back as we do each section, and we can talk about the sizing and the lengths. All right, so I just completed this section right here. So short section here, right to this, I guess you could say a joiner reducer. I actually could have done that as one piece. And the reason for that is I actually increased the size. So what was there, I believe, is, okay, so we have 5.5 millimeter, and I increased it to a 6, but it actually holds pretty well on all those different areas. So you could actually eliminate that union right there. As you can see, I just came off right here, zip tie, right under down here, zip tie, and straight there. And that's pretty much what I'm going to keep doing to replace a lot of this. Now, just for your information, that was about 2 feet of 6 millimeter. I'll keep a tally. I do have the packing list here, and I did buy, there we go, 5 feet of 6 millimeter. The most that I have, which you'll see a lot of running in here, is the 4 millimeter. And then, of course, I've got a foot of 8 and 10 millimeter right there for anything that's just a little large. So the next one we're going to tackle here, after I go and replace this little short section here, is this section over here. As you can see, this thing's just brittled and nasty, okay? And as you can see, I've already repaired it. So we're gonna take this right back to the source, which, if you can see in here, it actually goes into a little wiring loom probably just cut it off right there. I know that's not complete because it doesn't go all the way back to the firewall, but who knows, maybe I might strip this jacket back and get to it a little sooner. And then also coming off that loom is this section right here, this black section that also goes to this valve right here, and we'll replace that and this little section here, and then we'll decide about this whole section here. Now feel free, if you have enough, to route them so that they look a little better, because if you notice, the factory usually takes somewhat of the shortest way, and or they'll try to hide some things, but like, you don't need this all hung up in the air here. You could run some extra to try to hide it. So feel free to get creative. That's what I've done here. I've kind of rerouted it down and underneath. So yeah, try to hide some of this stuff, hide the ugly, and I'll bring you back when we replace that whole section. So I just wanted to bring you back for a quick second here. As I was trying to look at this vacuum line here, I started moving it and it just started crumbling, and now you can see there's a crack in it. I'm sure if I tried that maneuver a little bit more here, you'll, oh, see, look at that. It just, now I see why under hard acceleration I'll lose my heat or air conditioning and it'll go right to defrost. It's because it's cracked here. So I may have to take this back in the jacket to get to something that's a little less weather worn, because it's just like coming apart. So I'm going to show you guys a little issue I have run into here. So this is the 4mm vacuum line, and it's actually just a little big for fitting over these hoses, and of course the fitting back here for this gate. And it's mostly because this doesn't have a barb like some of the other fittings do. And so it won't, it slides on, it's just too easy, and you know it will come right off. So here's something I've been doing, at least for now, until I can research some smaller vacuum line that has a better hold, like the blue that was on here previous. I take some black electrical tape and I cut off like about 1 inch, and I just wrap it around, and that's creating enough friction and hold that it's staying on there. So I've done it for here and for this one back here, and I'm gonna have to do it for this one as well. You're probably not gonna have to do that with all of them, just because the rest of these fittings look large enough and they're barbed. Okay, so I think that's only something you're gonna run into with making those connections. But if you run into the same issue, that's how I solved it, and I'm sure I'll figure out how well that works overall with holding vacuum, but I think it should hold up pretty well. All right, so I've replaced the vacuum lines from over here, and I've ran this one up behind this canister here, right through here, and I've zip tied it up here. And my plan is possibly to run all the vacuum lines over the top rather than trying to snake them around the back and, you know, through the engine. And that way they can stay cool, and I just don't have to do all that extra fishing work. So the next thing I'm going to replace before I continue is the vacuum canister. So pretty simple to get it off. There are 2 bolts right here on the other side. You'll just have to take those 2 off, and the can itself will come off the wheel well. And then we just have to keep tracing all of these lines back. And I'm hoping one of these is also part of this tree, and then I can kind of loop back to where I was. So I'm going to replace this, and we'll keep moving. All right, guys, so I'm back, and if you can't quite tell, it's a different day. So something that doesn't happen to me very often while I'm filming is I ran out of daylight, and it kind of started raining. Now, I did have a chance to get some work done, and so I'm going to bring you back here, and we're going to do a little recap. So when I left off, the coffee can, aka the vacuum canister, was not replaced. So as you can see, new coffee can there. One thing you'll run into with replacing this is because it bolts down in the wheel well, you'll most likely snap off the bolts like I did, and you'll be in a position like I am now where I don't have the nuts on there. But hey, I've been driving around for probably a week and a half, and the can has not changed position, and driving around the streets of Philadelphia is like the surface of the moon. So can's still there, 1-0 for me. So also, I said I did this whole electrical tape fix to make the vacuum line stay on better. Works perfectly. I've been using the air conditioner and the defrost and all the other related air components, and if anything, you can hear the doors for the vents and defrost open much faster. So this has been a very good repair, and like I said, I've been driving around for a week and a half. It's working great. Now moving forward here, I left off this, I hadn't completed this vacuum line. Now the bulk of the vacuum lines will wrap around the back of the engine here and come around this side, and then they'll tie into the tree. Now, some of them are in wiring loom protector like that, and they'll just be kind of a nuisance to break apart, but take your time. You don't want to destroy anything that you don't know about. So for this case, I've run everything up through the top here like I said I was going to do. So this one runs over around here, bang, stabs right into this tree. And then I have the fuel pressure regulator, comes right up, boom, right into the vacuum tree here as well. And then of course there's one here off the coffee can that I run up here, run around the back, and also stab into the vacuum tree. Now, of course, the other thing that happened to me, I was really batting 1,000 that day. I ran out of 5mm, so I had to leave on the old plastic there. So as you can see, it's sort of running the same direction that I'm going to run my new vacuum line. But yes, again, it runs over the top. Now that one plugs right here. This sensor here has 2 vacuum lines that plug into it. So this one, that's a green plastic vacuum line, okay? Now, from what I know from research, this whole area, these components here are emissions related. If you delete some of these emissions things, you won't need any of those vacuum lines, and you can effectively cap them off. Matter of fact, there is a valve around the back. It's your tab valve. That's on the configuration that I have is for like 95 and newer models. When I did some of the vacuum lines, and I was like, oh, I'll start the truck, see how it is. Started the truck, and there's air pissing out of this thing, and it never used to be like that. And so I was driving around like that. The check engine light was coming on. It was a real nuisance. Well, turns out the fix was swapping these two. So I don't know if I messed it up, or, I just, maybe the can is new now and things work. Because the other can did have a pinhole leak in it. I was to find later. So anyway, as you can see with vacuum lines, it's just a matter of finding the one you want to replace and trace it back. Now, I'm going to call it quits with these vacuum lines because I really don't want to touch the rest of these. They all plug into that tab valve in the back, and they're all actually in good condition. And for the most part, they don't look terribly ugly because they don't go to all these things. And so I'm going to leave them be. So if you're at this point, like I said, you can make the decision and replace those. And if not, you can leave it off just where I am right now. And I can definitely tell you, replacing your vacuum lines has actually made certain components run so much better. I can definitely tell throttle is a little more consistent. Again, it's a vacuum related component and the engine's a large vacuum. And I can also tell the HVAC equipment in the truck works so much faster, so much better, and I get stronger air. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of things that just work much, much better. So you guys get the chance, definitely give this repair a try. And one last thing, you probably want to know, how much vacuum line am I supposed to buy? Well, from the original footage, the only thing you're gonna need additionally, I bought another 5 extra feet of the 5mm. So that comes out to 20 feet more of the 5mm. I might still have a foot or so left over. So that's the only other thing to keep in mind. Like I said, I'm going to try and put some of this stuff down in the description, links and such, so that you don't have to come and ask me in the comments where to buy this. Although I'm very happy to answer those comments, but you can go down there and you can click for the links. So guys, that's all for me. Hit the subscribe icon over here. Check out some of my other videos. I'm Stevie from the Minute Masters. Thanks for watching.